Welcome to the Sageology podcast, where your host Sage shares her astrological and spiritual insights. Sit back, relax, expand your perspective, and enjoy.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Sageology podcast. My name is Sage, the astrologer, and today we are going to be talking about this Pisces a lunar eclipse. So I like this. Let's get into it. Okay, first let me explain what a lunar eclipse is. So there's full moons and there's new moons, and then they have lunar eclipses and solar eclipses. So a lunar eclipse is basically a supercharged full moon. New moons and full moons are important because they represent shifts in life. So they kind of bring to attention little things that are changing, whereas little new beginnings that we should maybe be paying attention to, or things that happen that maybe we need to, let go or take notice of. So new moons and full moons kind of have a way of having like a heightened energy. So their whole purpose is to create shifts and to bring things into our awareness, right? But when you have an eclipse, that's new moon or full moon with a lot of energy. So a lot of times that manifests as changes like in our life. So we're closing out chapters in our life and we're entering new chapters in our life. So the energy comes like a little bit more dramatic. So this is something that we're going to be experiencing on the 7th. When it does come to eclipses, lunar eclipses, solar eclipses, the energy could be really intense. So it is important to give yourself grace, babes. Like a lot of times, things could be really emotionally charged. People could be in their feelings. You may be upset. Emotions could just be really, really heightened. So if you are experiencing any of this, just know that 9 times out of 10 is probably the eclipse and it's okay. So just relax, just be at peace. Don't go into a frenzy, do nothing crazy, do nothing drastic. Just be like, it is what it is and sit with whatever is coming up. But also try not to make any like rash decisions out of heightened emotions during this time because again, it's an eclipse. So a lot of times you don't really notice how your life is shifting in the eclipse unless it's something very, very close to your chart and it's really potent and it's really dramatic. So sometimes you have stuff like, like you if something happens around the eclipse, like oh you leave a job or you get married or somebody gets sick or if it like these specific things you is very obvious to be like okay my life is obviously changing a bit, but if it's not things that are that obvious, it could just be something 6 months later when you look back in it's like okay that was the start of a new chapter for me. So even if it's not something that's really explicit or dramatic that's happening in your life through this time, just notice that it may be little subtle shifts. Like, for example, when we were having the Aries Libra eclipses, um, around that time, on the day of the eclipse, I attended a Zoom meeting with some people who I didn't know they were strangers to me at that time. But over the course of time, I grew to become very close with those people, and they all became, like my friends and a part of my community. So, that's just an example of I didn't know that then, I was just on a Zoom meeting, but that's how the wheels of fate spent. So, it's just important to pay attention to little things, but even if you don't know the little things that are happening, it could be, years later or 6 months later, you're going to be like, oh, okay, that little thing that happened that day, that little shift, that little feeling, that little emotion that I had that day turned out to be a transitional period of my life or it symbolically opened up a new chapter in my life. So let's get into it. This is a Pisces lunar eclipse. I really like this. So I feel like a lot of this energy is going to be forcing us to heal, right? And so eclipses happen in pairs. We have this one on the 7th, which is a Pisces lunar eclipse, and then the one on the 21st is Virgo. So it's like two areas of your life that are interacting, right? Because we are on the Pisces Virgo axis. So the Pisces side of the Pisces Virgo axis is going to be encouraging you to heal, is going to be encouraging you to have faith, is going to be encouraging you to trust in the divine. So this is where the North Node lies. So we have North Node eclipses and South Node eclipses. And the North Node, that is energy of expansion, right? It's us being pushed kind of towards our destiny, the energy more so that we need to embrace. It could be something that we have a hunger for. It could be something that we want to develop, right? And South Node eclipses is something that is maybe draining us, something that is like overly repetitive, a toxic cycle, lessons that we need to learn, something that we need to let go of, right? So, with the North Node being in Pisces during this Pisces lunar eclipse, it's the North Node eclipse. So, the things that are coming up to surface around this time should be things that you want to kind of grow into, right? It should be energy that you should be embracing, things that you should strive towards. But if been humaning on this earth for some time, you know, a lot of times that's easier said than done. Like a lot of times when you do want to learn and grow and embrace new things, baby, you gonna have those learning and growing pains. So that may come up during this eclipse, you know. You don't hop out the womb walking, talking with a full set of mouth. Like, them your teeth gotta come through them gums. You gonna have to stumble a few times. You gonna have to walk on your sea legs, you know. You gonna have to crawl. So um, be open to that process and be open to the feelings of growing pains and the feelings of shedding and just kind of allow the universe to bring to light, you know, these things in your life so you can be open and receptive to that process and to the process of learning and to the process of growing. Because this eclipse is ruled by Jupiter in Cancer, that's very positive. That's really positive energy. So I feel like everything that is happening around this time, even though it may not feel like it, everything that is happening around this time is pushing you towards your greatest good. It's pushing you towards a better, higher, more magnificent, glamorous reality. A lot of times when you hear people talk about the sign of Pisces, Pisces is a sign like that's associated with faith. Is also a sign that's kind of associated with, like Delulu a little bit. But having faith does require a certain level of Delulu, y'all. But like, so Pisces is characterized as a very spiritual sign, and it gets the qualities of the spirituality from the planet Jupiter, which is like a really spiritual planet. That's kind of the archetypes that it deals with. So Jupiter is a very good position during the time of this eclipse, which is a good thing. It's in Cancer. So we're going to want to, like nurture ourselves, feed into our bodies, listen to our emotions, and kind of see, you explore it a little bit and see where that's leading us. But the thing that I love most about this energy is sometimes when you just have like Jupiterian energy and is real strong, it can sometimes like give Jim Jones. It could give like cult like obsessive like, oh, like I need to, like sometimes Jupiter can be overly ambitious, idealistic, just wanting to do something, and it's kind of like, oh, whoa, let's slow down here and apply the brakes. But we also have Mercury in Virgo during the time of this eclipse, which I really really like. So I feel like it's this beautiful blending of, this is how I feel idealistically, these are the things that I want idealistically. These are the places that I see myself going. These are the things that I want to achieve. But it's also a sense of not just blind faith and delusion and just kind of being like high off of a dream, but also a sense of grounded practicality as well. So I want to do this, but these are the steps that's going to get me here. Does this make logical sense? Is this something that is actually obtainable? So I do love that Mercury and Virgo, along with Jupiter and Cancer in the sky, both of these planets are very well positioned. So it's not like your faith has to fight against your logic, or your logic has to fight against your faith. Both of these things are easily accessible to you at this time. And I also do think that this is even more encouragement for people to kind of embrace and sit with their emotions. Throughout time, like being human, I do think this is one of the things that could create sickness in our society as well. We are so busy in our day to day being human, going with the emotions. So many times we just shove our emotions to the side. Like we don't listen to them, we don't think about them, we don't pay attention to them. And I also think that's why planets go retrograde every now and then, so we can have these moments and periods of time to slow us down. So if you are feeling frustrated, insecure, if you're feeling lack, or even if you feel like, you know what, like I feel good about this, I want to explore this, I want to do this more, sit with that. Don't just shove it aside, you know? Don't just have an uncomfortable feeling and then like, you know, start drinking or scrolling on TikTok, or give yourself time to be human and to really sit with yourself, to really sit in some energy and to really process your emotions and see what that emotion is trying to unveil to you. Why is it coming up? Because when we stuff our emotions down and when we don't listen to them and when we don't pay attention to them, that's a easy recipe against stuck in cycles. That's how people get stuck in cycles. And I also think too, like, there's a lot of times where, especially if you're a person like me, you're very good at understanding things intellectually. Like you can intellectually grasp a concept, or you can rationally understand why you are doing something. It's like mom could be like an alcoholic or some shit, right? And then you're like, oh, the reason why she act like this because her mom was an alcoholic and her mom didn't love her as a baby, so she has all these toxic things, and that's why she whatever toxic behavior, right? But it's like, okay, we can have awareness of our trauma. We can have awareness of why we do certain things or these toxic patterns or where things stem from, or even if it's a habit that you develop. Some people just kind of operate on autopilot where they're just like moving through the motions, and it's just like they don't think about the things that they do unless you are like, like a psychoanalyzer. And you kind of like notice some things, right? And you're just like, okay, so I could put two and two together and I know why. I recognize this pattern, this behavior that I have. I recognize this pattern, this behavior that someone else have. And I have the brain power to put two and two together. It's like, that's why you do that toxic ass shit. But y'all, logically knowing something and logically understanding something is not enough. It's never enough. Because if it was enough, how many people know that drinking is bad for you, or you shouldn't eat fast food, or smoking gives you cancer and still do it anyway? You have to get down to the root of why you are willingly doing this behavior you know? And so that takes sitting with your emotions and processing them. Because if you don't process your emotions, you are bound to repeat the cycle. And a lot of times, we don't like to process our emotions just because it feels so shitty to do that. You develop those behaviors, those toxic behaviors, to do the very opposite, to numb your feelings out, to keep you from feeling your emotions. You don't want to feel like, like your alcoholic mom didn't love you, so you cut off everybody before they get too close because you don't want to sit with that feeling. And so that behavior is like nursing the emotional pain of whatever you don't want to sit with. But there's magic when our shadows, right? They're just parts of ourselves that want to experience love and be acknowledged. So when you can sit with that shadow, with that, that insecurity or that thing that makes you uncomfortable, and you be like, talk to your inner child or whatever, you integrate the feeling and it's, or even, baby, give yourself grace. For a lot of the toxic habits that I had to give myself grace in order to stop having those toxic habits, I had to be like, Sage, like this no longer benefits or serves us. So we're going to put this behavior aside. But I understand why you did these things, girl. You was going through it. Like, I'm not mad at you. I love you and I'm happy that it's these survival mechanisms are not serving us. So this survival mechanism is something that we have to lay to rest. But honoring, respecting, loving, and appreciating that version of yourself that was doing what they had to do and working with what they got, that was finding a way to deal with that pain, even if it was unhealthy. So when you don't process your emotions, you stay stuck in that cycle of trauma. Understanding something intellectually is not enough. So I said all that to say this is why I love the energy of Jupiter being in Cancer and Mercury being in Virgo, because you can marry that. You can understand why you can do something on like an intellectual level, but you can pair it with the emotional processing. And I do think that emotional processing is going to be a big part of this lunar eclipse just because we have a lot of water in the sky. If you didn't know and you're new to astrology, water is the element of emotion, right? Jupiter in Cancer, the moon in Pisces, Saturn in Pisces, North Node in Pisces. So to get to where you want to expand, you gotta feel what you need to feel, babes. Another thing that I want to talk about is that's going on in the sky during this eclipse. We have Jupiter in Cancer square Mars in Libra. So I do think that this can create a little bit of issue, right? I do think that a lot of the feminine energy that we have in the sky is good for the feminine side of things. Kind of like being in a receptive mode, understanding the path that you're being nudged by the universe or God to take, doing the healing. Okay, Virgo is good healing energy, Cancer is good healing energy, Pisces is good healing energy. But the shadow side of the feminine is being overly receptive or being a pushover or kind of not having a backbone. You have to find that fine line, that thin line between this is what I want to do, this is what's true for me, and going after it versus just completely being a pushover. You have to find that fine line of standing in your own authority and your own agency, but also leaving room for God. I'm concerned with this Mars Jupiter square because Mars in Libra does not have any backbone. Mars is the planet of our will, the planet of our ambition, the planet of our drive, and wants to go after things and wants to accomplish things and wants to acquire things. But in the sign of Libra, Mars doesn't have its agency to conquer and go after what it wants because it's concerned about what everyone else thinks. So, with this energy existing in the square to Jupiter in Cancer, Jupiter, the whole point of this eclipse is that Jupiter wants to give us a blessing. Jupiter wants to expand our horizon. Jupiter wants us to be open to the blessings of the universe and to receive a new thing, or to just to have us in more in alignment, right? But that Mars in Libra is going to be thinking what everybody else think. So you can come across some information or just have a feeling in your heart or yearning in your soul, like I need to do this. I want to go after this. But there also could be a sense of, damn, if I do this thing, I know my family will judge me. If I do this thing, I know that I may lose a couple friends. If I do this thing, I know my coworker is gonna look at me funny. So it could be a sense of like rejecting, expanding because you are afraid of jeopardizing certain relationships that you have. And I do think that that is something to sit with and that is something to work through, because I think that any person, place, or thing that does not create um fertile energy for your growth and your expansion is not what's best for you. It doesn't matter if you have emotional ties to it or you find familiarity in it. If you are willing to disconnect and step into into the unknown, right? God will replace what you lost. God will replace what you lost. You'll be able to find, you know, new coworkers, new friends, new people who you are in alignment with that do create an environment that is conducive for your growth and your expansion, that is not toxic and that is not harmful for you. And I also do think one thing that could be kind of like harsh about this aspect is that a lot of times, because that is a form of self-sabotage, right? Not existing in your true self, not existing in your true light because you are afraid of rejection or because you are afraid of offending your environment. That is a form of self-harm. That is a form of self-sabotage. And that is an irritation. Mars is irritation. That is an irritation to yourself. That is an irritation to your soul. And that is not going to be the energy that gets you to the next level. So there may be, those things could also be brought to light during this eclipse. And then sometimes too, a lot of times stuff just be in our head. So maybe you just need to have a conversation. Maybe you just need to tell people what it's like from your perspective. And sometimes, baby, you just gonna have to protect your peace and do what you gotta do and expand to new horizons, you know? And I also do think too, like with this transit, I do feel there's a sense of being humble enough to make the change that is necessary and to accept the information that you may need, but that you're not too keen on hearing. There's a certain, like information or level of like information or perspective when it comes to the Mars and Libra energy. So it could be information that you hear, advice that you get, but you may not like where it's coming from. You may not want to take the advice. It may not be something that you want to hear. So again, it's that action that you're choosing to make. It's like passing on the play. It's that action that you're choosing to, by choosing to not do something, that's still an action. That's also an action. So don't choose not to do something because it displeases your ego. You know, a lot of times, like people think that they're being like selfless or egoless, but that's ego. Being self-sacrificial, that's ego. Do you think that is something is just? Do you think that is something that, the highest vibration of the universe or God like truly wants us to do? I don't think so. I feel like people make use that as excuse because it makes them feel good, but nobody likes a fucking martyr. Like that's not, especially if that's not your divine assignment. Like, who are you? You're not Jesus, girl. Like, nobody told you to be over there and torture yourself to, please a whole bunch of people that you don't even really like for real. Like, I think a lot of times we pretend that it's noble, but it's not a noble thing. It's like it's weird. Like it's giving like anxious attachment. It's giving people pleaser. Like, don't be the anxiously attached people pleaser because those people be miserable and you don't want to be miserable. So don't live your life for other people and create stagnant energy that is irritating to you and fucking up your aura because of what? So if you hear the information that you don't like, what are you going to do about it? Use that as something that grow and elevates you. If you are afraid of displeasing people, maybe you need to make room for people who are going to uplift you. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Um, Another thing that's in the sky. So we do have a lot of air energy too. Like we have the water energy that's there, a little bit of fire, and some air, right? With Mars. We have Pluto in Aquarius, Uranus in Gemini. So during this eclipse, Pluto in Aquarius is going to be squaring Uranus and Gemini. So I do think that this is all about information. So Gemini is a sign that deals with information and ideas. The element of air deals with information, deals with communication, it deals with ideas and the translation of that. Pluto in Aquarius is also, I kind of think of Pluto in Aquarius as societal constructs and structures, but in an idealistic type of way. So Pluto and Aquarius to me gives social constructs, right? Or more so like social, idealistic versions of society. So when I think of Pluto and Aquarius, I think about, culture, governments, belief systems, those types of things on a more so advanced level. And Uranus and Gemini, that's really going to be your advancement of, technology, new ideas, new thought systems, new information that comes to you and that could hit you out of nowhere. Uranus is very like lightning bolt, lightning strike type energy. And Gemini is the translation of that thought. So, with this being baked into the chart of this lunation, this could be just be open to new ideas and new information, new pathways that could help you that you didn't potentially think about. Like I said, now that we have all these inner planets at the beginning of these signs, I do think that this is really important to pay attention to if you kind of know how to recognize it, because once these planets get further along into these signs, it's like that energy is less, it's more gridlock, it's more firm. And we will also we'll see that in our personal lives, but we'll see that in society as well. So there's a sense of if you kind of want to get ahead of the curve and you want to keep up with the times, be open to new ideas, to the new downloads, to the ways that society is progressing, but also to the things that, like your spirit team, your spirit guide may share with you, or just the random ideas that you have, or the random things that you feel changed to do. If you constantly have a, like a, what, I think I want to be an entrepreneur, or I think I want to develop my baking business, or what, I think I want to start bowling as a hobby. Like, be open to those new shifts, those new ideas, those new changes that you have in energy, and cultivate that, because I do think that if we allow for that space, one, we could be open to receiving solutions that we didn't know were possible. We'll be open to receiving solutions that we didn't know we needed. We'll be open to seeing solutions that we didn't know existed. But also, too, you have the opportunity to be a trailblazer in this new reality, you know, because this may be the Pluto and Aquarius idea that was dropped into your head. And if you take the Pluto and Aquarius idea and you elevate it, and you grow with it and you cultivate it, when Pluto is really in Aquarius, you that girl while everybody else is playing catch up. So I do think it's important to kind of be open to change. That's the most thing that I can say. Pluto kind of has an intensity to it where it can take you through like this whole death transformation thing. So it can be a new idea, a download, something that kind of drops into your head, but you're like, whoa, this is challenging my belief system, or this is challenging my lifestyle. This is challenging, the person who I am in this present moment. And that could be a good thing or a bad thing, but 9 times out of 10, it is a good thing, right? Because if you're not changing, you're being stagnant. If you're being stagnant, like, that's an issue. That's a problem. So you just do want to be open to the expansion. You want to be open to the growth. And if it's a painful thing, not necessarily painful, let me use the word transformative. Pluto could be a very transformative energy. So if it's transformative in some way or form, don't be alarmed. And also if it comes out of nowhere too, don't be alarmed. And this could also be you realizing that your external reality is already changing and you being like, oh shit, I gotta keep up. Rather your job is implementing new systems or your job is implementing AI, or you find out, you look around and you're like, oh shit, everybody is progressing and I'm getting left behind. Like, let me hop on this. Let me see what this is about. Let me develop, let me cultivate this. So just really be open to that. And staying on the outer planet loop, we have the same time that Uranus is going to be squaring Pluto and Aquarius is also going to be making a sextile to Neptune in Aries. Okay, sorry y'all. When I was saying square, I meant trine. So Uranus in Gemini is making a trine to Pluto and Aquarius. If you don't know what that means, it's okay. It's not that important. But my delineation still stands. All it means is that a trine, when two planets are in a trine energy, they're helping each other and they're also sharing a element most likely. But a square, those energies are kind of existing a little bit more in a conflicting nature, right? But but I do like, you know, Pluto and Uranus together. I feel like those energies are coming together to help you, transform and help you expand and, fit in with the new reality. But this Uranus and Neptune energy together is something that I will watch out for. I do think that this is like a little bit concerning. So it kind of gives overestimating your confidence or feeling more empowered to do something than you actually are. So remember at the beginning of this episode, when I was saying that there's a sense of faith, of feeling inspired by faith and kind of like wanting to lean on your faith to grow and elevate. But there's also like a sense of, things making sense, of things being logical. If the energy is giving, "Oh, new idea, let me do this," and it's almost kinda like a manic high, like, "Yeah, we can really do this," like, "Yeah, we can pull this off," like, "Let's go, let's dive all in, let's cash out," like, that's concerning. I'll be concerned about that. Don't watch out for that. Don't lean too far into that because remember, Neptune is illusion. It's delusion. So a lot of times, again, when we are being faced with uncomfortable energies, so sometimes we like do toxic shit to cope and to get it out our system. Sometimes we believe in the fantasy because it's more comfortable believing in a fantasy than believing in a reality. These be the people who are in like an abusive relationship and they convince themselves that their partner is perfect because they in an abusive relationship. They don't want to face the reality so they could get out, right? So that's the same thing with like Neptunian energy and Uranus and Gemini energy. So it's kind of almost like an idea, information, new opportunity comes towards you out of nowhere, and it's too good to be true. Or you could just be overestimating your confidence in anything. This is like the energy of being like, you know what? I'm gonna go skydiving, by myself. Nobody to help me on my first try because I got this. You don't got it. It's okay. Slow down. And you definitely don't want to do nothing like that during the eclipse, too, when the energy is really potent. So don't develop that knee-jerk reaction to kind of believe and go after something that is not really the most beneficial for you because you want that, like, high, like, experience, like, it's okay. It's okay, y'all. It's okay. It's never that deep. And, yeah, I don't feel the need to drag this out and hold y'all longer than what this needs to be. That's pretty much the energy of this eclipse. Now, just please keep in mind that eclipse energy, I'm saying all of this, but it's gonna, for some people, it depends on how your chart is configured, how it's hitting you. So if you are a Virgo or if you are a Pisces, this eclipse energy may be more intense for you than it is for everybody else, but it is okay. Baby, you're not going crazy, nothing wrong with you. It's just the sky. It's just the stars, babe. They just, doing a little one too. It's all right. The world is not ending. It's fine. So I do say that to say, like, it's a little bit emotionally in charge. And even if it's not emotionally charged, things are going to be shifting in your life that you may not have awareness of. So it's perfectly normal to be a little bit more reserved, a little bit more tired during these times. Just accept it and roll with the flow. Um, Another thing that I will say too about this eclipse cycle. So during this eclipse, we have Saturn at 29-degree Pisces. So, and Saturn has also retrograded back into Pisces after being in Aries for about 3 months, right? So during this eclipse, there's going to be a visitation of old themes, of old problems, of old scenarios, things that you've been, like dealing with and working on. And whereas a couple months ago, around springtime, this could have been challenges for you. And now you can kind of have a bird's eye view of, okay, I understand this. I feel like I mastered this lesson, but you're feeling the emotional intensity of it, and that's just for you to let it go, you know? So it could feel like you're revisiting the past a little bit, or you are experiencing old wounds, or old wounds are resurfacing for you to just kind of like evaluate and work through. And that's okay. If you're feeling all of these things, it's perfectly normal. um, be sure to care for yourself. Be sure to care for others. If you are, have a friend that's like, or somebody, a coworker or whatever, and you see them being affected by this eclipse energy and they don't know what's going on, send them this video. Be like, it's just an eclipse, girl. This what's going on. So, I wish y'all a very happy, blessed, prosperous, peaceful, healing, expansive eclipse season. Um, Thank y'all so much for tuning into this episode of the Sageology podcast. Always check my links in the description if you want to work with me. Visit my website, um, and book a reading. But I love y'all. Thank you so much for listening, and be blessed, and bye.